Boy, that's the nicest name of anybody.
That is nice. You don't know my favorite back to have file.
I never realized that site-based plan was certain during these meetings.
You better hope it doesn't fall, or you'd be in real trouble.
Well, if it could come on, they take me. Even.
Pretty nice traffic pad Steve is in, isn't it? Look at that seat.
Unbelievable. Nice decoration, Rob.
In the basement and some so that nobody could bother me. So, we take turns using this as our escape from home.
So how's homeschooling going to you, boy?
She can more work. No, she's doing alright. She keeps up and does plenty of time to annoy us, but it's really different having three people at home working together and trying to find space, so one of us usually comes here and works, so.
What grade are you in?
Six.
That is the kind of annoying stage.
Yeah, I mean.
Now remember, we're live.
The 12-year. Looks like 3 minutes. Check on one thing.
Two minutes.
So is there a delay? A little bit.
Yeah, I missed my hand on the clock for the seconds. My digital on my computer doesn't have that. All right, it's 5:30. Time to call to order the regular meeting of the Madison Central School Board for Monday, April 13th. Mr. Brooks will record the members present or absent. We have everyone with us, so we have our quorum. Next, I'll stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you much. First item on our agenda is approval of the agenda, and I believe there are no changes.
Correct.
All right, so at this point, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Hanemichael. Is there a second?
Second?
By Mrs. Kappeman. Mr. Brooks, do you want to call the roll, please?
Do you want me to roll call? Okay. Sorry, I got a formal sheet of the order in which we call it.
I don't think it matters.
Okay. Nelson?
Aye.
Miller?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Schultz?
Schultz?
Oh, here.
Bundy?
Aye.
Farrell?
Yes.
All in favor?
Motion passes. On to item number 6 in our agenda is the consent items. Item number 7 is approval of the minutes of our March 9th meeting. Next is approval of the bills. Mrs. Schultz, Mr. Bundy, and myself had the opportunity to go through those. I believe everything was in order. And item number 9 is our personnel actions, and we'll turn that over to Mr. Jorgensen.
We have a few personnel actions tonight. Registration from Christian Hildebrandt as our high school social studies teacher, effective at the end of the 2019-2020 school year. Request to hire Nick Offerman as a technology support intern at $12.05 per hour. He began these duties on the 23rd of March. It's been very helpful as we were getting electronic devices distributed. Request to hire for the 2021 school year, Kaylee Nielsen as a special education teacher for the SEC room at $43,200. Brenda Johnson, middle school teacher at $43,000 to replace Steve Gores, who will be moving into the position of high school, middle school alternative learning instructor, replacing the retirement of Nancy Failer.
Okay, so recommendation of the administration is those personnel actions. This time I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Bundy has the motion. Who had the second?
Miller.
Miller. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Discussion on consent items. Anything there anybody has? If not, Mr. Brooks, would you call the roll again, please?
Nelson?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Schultz.
Michael?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye.
Kappeman?
Aye.
Bundy?
Aye.
Farrell?
I declare the motion passes. Now, will anyone who wishes to participate in the meeting, hearing of delegations and communications, we ask that you call 605-256-7700, 256-7700. School patrons be given the opportunity to address the school board regarding items that are not on the agenda. The board will not hear personal complaints about the staff. The president has the right to limit speakers to a reasonable amount of time. Persons addressing the board are asked to speak and give us their name. So we'll pause for just a couple of seconds if anyone wishes to call in. Again, 605-256-7700. While we're waiting, should we go to administrator reports? And if someone comes in, we'll pause those.
There is about a 20-second delay between our cast and then what we have on our screen. So it'll be a little bit before if somebody calls in.
Maybe we just wait a minute or two quick.
Okay, that's fine.
2 minutes. If you by chance move your microphone closer, you're really hard to hear.
Oh, I'll make sure I talk louder. I had to share the microphone with the main computer because mine was with picking it up. It was making a lot of echo. Is that better?
You're better.
Okay.
Again.
I'll make sure I talk louder, sorry. We're through. 15 seconds marked. Okay. Just picked up your conversation about that.
Anything coming in, Mitch?
Nothing coming in, it's been probably about a minute since we announced it.
Well, then let's proceed with our administrator reports then.
Okay. Just making sure my mute wasn't on. Got a number of things to touch base on here. One is the distance learning update. We started on the 23rd. We're now in week 4. Information as far as distribution right now, we were using emails. The principals using emails, video, phone calls. We're sending out push notifications. We needed Zoom sessions, morning announcements in some cases. Keeping in contact with teachers via Skype, Zoom meetings, individual emails, group emails, telephone calls. The platforms being used right now, K through 12 would be Google Classroom, Zoom, Loom, Whereby, Khan Academy, virtual tours, Seesaw. We have learning boards out there, Schoology, and website landing pages. Devices, obviously, we have junior K through 12 now, Chromebooks and Kindles out. Kindles are just in the junior K. We're also keeping track if we have any students that are inactive right now and really aren't doing much as far as work. We're doing phone calls, principals are contacting them, contacting parents, emails, and the high school keeping a weekly inactive list, and again, just continue to contact and continue trying to reach out and see what we can do to help them along. So we're making adjustments on the go. Again, distance learning isn't something you do in 3 days. However, the state, Madison included, found out in 3 days that's what we were going to be doing. So ton of credit goes out to the parents, to the teachers. Teachers have made a lot of adjustments, going above and beyond in a lot of areas, and offering additional support for kids. So again, I want to thank the parents for their part in this, because they're a crucial part in it any time, and especially now when the kids are at home and we're trying to get information, curriculum out to them. So just a little bit of an update there on all the different things that the principals have in place right now. I want to send a thank you out to Vast Broadband, Midco, Interlakes, and Tritel for providing free internet services to our families who didn't have that service. So right now, I think we're down to maybe 1 or 2 that don't have that capability right now. So we've gained a ton in there. So thank you to all those providers for stepping forward during this time and helping us out. Excuse me. Just a quick review on SAC lunches. After the first 4 weeks, we have distributed 8,484 student lunches. So averaging 424 student lunches a day. I believe our high was 540 some one day. So again, thanks to the food service for all they're doing, preparing those, and also to the workers that are coming in and help distribute. We're looking at possibly making a change this week. If we do, we'll get a push notification, and that change would simply be that rather than giving a SAC meal every day, we might look at changing to every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and handing out 2 meals at a time, so that we have 2 less contact days during the week. We just hand them out on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but it'd be for 2 days at a time each time we hand it out. And again, if we get to that this week yet, we'll make that announcement so everybody's aware of it in advance.
Joe, we'll do 2 on Fridays as well?
Correct.
Nice.
So it would be basically a Monday through Saturday type deal.
Nice.
Legislative session, there will be a special session planned in June sometime. We don't know when yet. I would expect that the 2% increase will not be there. Understandable with what's going on. Once we know more, you'll know more, but we don't even know when that session will take place yet. But the governor has tentatively said June. End of the school year. Now that we know we won't be back in session, what I'd like to do is I'd like to recommend that we use our original date of May 20th. We had slid it to the 22nd at one point, but with the flood days and everything else we've done, I think May 20th would be a good date for us to have as our end date. Understanding that we're going to need a few days prior to that to get electronic devices handed in, because we're going to have about 1,200 devices out there to try and set up a process to collect those back. Along with those same lines, I would recommend that the seniors would be done then the 13th, which is the week before, which is before when we would have had graduation scheduled. So that would be my recommendation, that we have May 20th and May 13th, and for seniors, that's how we finish up the school year. Any thoughts on that?
I think it makes good sense with what everybody's had to go through.
Okay. Now the real question, graduation. I can't tell you how many contacts from other superintendents, from all across the state. I know parents, I'm sure, are wondering, and so I'm not sure what the right answer is. I know in our recent talks with some of the large schools and things that they're looking at, I mentioned was that if we had a virtual graduation on our scheduled May 17th as an option, where we would record the photos, we would stream it at that time, we would record the speakers we'd have for regular service. Just one thought, I know some schools are going to the 17th, are going to their original graduation date. I've heard of other schools that are trying to set up something with a drive up to get the diploma into an area. Now granted, we'll have 100 seniors, so there are some logistics that would come into play there. Or maybe it's a combination of a virtual and trying to set a traditional ceremony for later in the summer. Again, whether we'd set one for later in June or later in July. I'm afraid if we just set a late June or late July as our only option, what happens then if we get to late June, late July, and we still can't have a group come together? Then all of a sudden I think we've painted ourselves into a corner. So thoughts, I don't know, you folks have probably heard more than I've heard, I guess, on it. So thoughts on, I know we have a couple out there that have seniors even, so.
Yes, and she wanted to call in. She wanted to call in, and I gave her the number, but I don't think she did yet. She is very passionate about having a graduation. She wants to put it until July, and I suggest at this Independence Day, because then everybody will be, ready for a party. So having said that, I think that she is pretty passionate about wanting like a person, like a gathering of some sort. I asked her if it would be okay if she went ahead and did the virtual thing, and then later did the ceremony. She said, no, I don't want that, because why would anybody come? And so, I don't know, she doesn't really have an answer, but she's pretty sad about it.
I'm sure she was. So what would she say if we planned for July and then we couldn't have it?
Well, then we could still do the virtual, because anybody that's gonna come to the virtual will still come to virtual.
Okay, the only thing I'd say then is we need to plan both ways though, because in order to do the virtual, we'd have to have it all done in advance to get it recorded and get someone to put it together is all I'm getting at.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm only one guy, so
Yep.
it doesn't really, I'm just voicing what I've heard in the house here for the last.
Conversations I've had, Joel, Brad, my son and others feel the same as Steve's daughter, but nobody wants to plan and hope for July get together and then have to do the virtual anyway. I guess people I've spoken to said, let's just do the virtual, it's on the calendar, and then we can get graduation invites sent out. If we are and know what doing, we prepare for it, then we got a month to put together for official gathering. But I guess we're saying that we're liking your idea. 17th of May, virtual, and hope that we can get together later this summer.
Yeah, and I would think that, you know, the concern about people not coming in July to that, if we're allowed to go places, people are going to be ready to go. And those kids are going to be ready. And I think as a community, we will support them and we will be there. So, you know, I feel for these kids. I think we all do. And we just got to make the best out of this situation. And I guess I agree with where Sean's coming from. That's kind of what I've heard from parents too. It's like, what do we do, you know?
I had another idea that I ran by Joel too, but I got vetoed by my son and his friends right away. I said, what if we do a class of 2020, 2021, you know, do it all next year, everybody together. But consensus for that is once I'm out of here, I'm out of here. After my freshman year to walk down the aisle. So.
I think we have to be realistic too. If we can do it in July even, we have to understand there may still be some kids that won't be there. But if they've gone into whether it's military or something of that nature, chances are that we won't have them all here at that time. But again, you know, we've been, I'd like to say that there's a clear way to go with this, and but the only reason I mentioned the virtual to begin with and setting, and we'll gladly set a traditional ceremony day too. We would love to have that. I'd love to have that the 17th right now, but we know that's not going to happen. And as we've seen, that last information I've seen is our peak is going to be sometime now in late June is what I'm hearing, if not into July. My concern was if we just set it for June or July, we may not be able to have it at all. That's the only reason I said maybe it's a combination.
Do any of the members without seeing your children have a voice or an opinion or?
Well, I've got a grandparent perspective, and that is for sure with a virtual, no matter where grandparents are, they're definitely going to be able to participate with us doing it virtually and things. So they would be able to see whatever we had done and be able to join in. I realize that we're not in that case right now, but as our, you know, as we're separated from our son and his family, if this were Lindsay getting ready to graduate, I would certainly favor being able to have something virtual, so at least I'd have something to participate in.
Yeah.
And if we can set something else, I think that idea makes good sense, that we can always have an alternative. But if you get much past, like Steve's date at maybe the 4th of July, people are really going to begin to scatter after that. You know, summer's over pretty much in everybody's estimation once you hit the 4th. So I like that idea. I'd love to have them come together, but I think the virtual makes sense right now, and it would be as realistic as we can do. And I think the administration has come up with some neat ideas with the pictures and everything, that we would have a reasonable, not real, but a reasonable alternative.
I think Sean's comment about like you schedule and then you have to cancel it, that's the worst thing in the world, you know. I also just think, you know, at DSU, right, we started reading off all the online students at our graduation to make them a part of it too. Setting up a virtual one as like a guarantee is probably the best situation at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I know the students want a ceremony really badly, but I think we have to look at some realities here. And to me, the option of the virtual followed by a ceremony, if possible, seems to be the most sensible way to go.
So if we want to go that direction, my next question is, for a date in July, or we can say June as far as that goes. I just think that if we do it in June, I don't think there's any chance personally that that's going to happen. I think we better look at July and hope, and I still don't know if it'll happen, but is there a good time in July? I don't know if the 4th of July, Steve mentioned the 4th. There again, a lot of times if people can get together, they may be doing 4th of July activities too, so I don't know if that's the day or not the day.
Well, not wasn't mentioned, that's too close to June.
That is pretty close to June.
I would rather shoot for like a third weekend in July or something later that would have a fighting chance at. If you don't think June's gonna be an option, we're gonna find what's gotta be later in July.
If it was in later in July, is there any preference? So I'm just looking at the calendar right now. So for example, like the 24th is a Friday. I'm just trying to get a start here. That's the second to last Friday in July. I'm not saying it has to be Friday, but would you want it, if we can have the ceremony, do you want it, on a Friday, on a Saturday, on a Sunday, what?
Would we stay with the Sunday since that's historically the day we do it?
Yeah, we can. Graduations are anywhere from Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays is what I'm familiar with. So that's one reason I mentioned those days.
Yeah.
I did just get a message from a parent. They said, what about August 2nd? You know, kind of right before they take off for college, far enough out where, you know, we don't have to, hopefully we're kind of back in the swing of things because, you know, it'll be kind of their last little get together before they all take off for college or whatever they're going to do in the fall. So
That makes good sense.
Yeah.
I also received a text from a parent that in bold letters, it says it has to be rescheduled. So as far as just having virtual without no rescheduling, I do not think it's a very good option for the kids of the seniors.
I think that makes good sense, Steve. I really support that.
Yeah, and that's why we brought up the combination as an option.
I think the second may make good sense also, and kind of the last hurrah.
Yeah.
We will miss some if they're military or something, but,
I had
Well,
heard
that's-
parents say that they were thinking about doing an August date for their graduation party, so that way it was kind of a send-off for their child going to school. So I kind of do like that August 2nd date that Rob threw out.
Yeah.
It's one big
Oh.
celebration.
Mitch, when does college sports training camp start for their college athletes?
Beginning of August usually.
If
Beginning of
they get to
August.
have them.
We're thinking beginning of August, but we're not for sure.
You didn't hear me there, Mitch.
Oh, John and I were just thinking beginning of August, but we're not sure.
That's my guess.
Yeah.
So again, I think any date we pick, it's probably gonna eliminate a few kids.
Yeah. But unfortunately, that's probably the reality that we have to live with. I mean, these are not ideal times, unfortunately. I hate to miss anybody, but I think it's a reality.
I agree with Sean that I think if we go too early in July, graphs are showing we're still probably going to be dealing with this, where if we pick a later July, early August, that's the best I feel that we can strive for in hopes of us being able to have a celebration.
Gives us a chance.
This is just my thoughts. Personally, I'm just throwing it out there for my little line. Would like to get in July, just because I think my families will get more that aren't gone for sports training yet or military, but I could be wrong. That's just my thoughts. Maybe the last Sunday in July, kind of a compromise.
Well, the last Sunday in July would be the 26th. If I'm looking at the right calendar here,
Yeah, that's right.
it'd be the 26th of July, which would be at the very end. And then if those that were involved in any college activities, maybe that would still catch them.
Is there a chance that you could, hold the seniors? Could you give it an option for them so they could vote?
As far as the date, or as far as what, Steve?
Yep, the date.
Yeah. Well, somebody can. I'm not saying I know how to do it, but somebody
Yeah,
can.
I mean, would that be too much of a problem? Is that?
No, we would just send it out and we'd say we would have to have it back by a certain time. It'd just be a survey monkey and it would give us results as long as we understand if it's 51% to 49, it's 51% then.
Yeah, well, and I think a good little exercise in letting them voice their opinion and having an open conversation on how to best deal with the situation that's not ideal.
Sure.
I think though we want to be sure if we do that we give them at most 2 or 3 dates. We don't want them, like we said, early July just doesn't appear to be an option. We have to give them an option of what we feel realistically are those dates.
That's why, if we're gonna do that, I was gonna say, the two that have been out have been July 26th and August 2nd.
I like those two. Yep. We keep it, look, the fewer dates, the better.
Yes.
Yeah, otherwise, you spread out to 3 or 4 dates, then they're all gonna be close, and
I'm in favor of that, giving them the option, pick between those 2 dates, maybe have it back by Friday.
yeah, we'll get it put together right away, and I'm sure that everyone that's interested in this is gonna get a quick response to us, I would hope. Again, there's nothing we'd love more than to have a graduation on the 17th, and I think people know that.
Well, what is the opinion on this? Because I know it's not really the role of the school, but to have a little method or a little lesson in civil disobedience and actually just just going, making it happen. I understand that it's not a very popular thing to do, but we could just have one.
Have what?
I'm talking just have a May 17th graduation.
No. I'm saying in July, because I'm guessing by July, everybody will probably be a little bit, they'll come to terms with the situation that we're at, and so they'll probably be ready just to get on with things.
We're peaking in July yet.
Yeah,
I'm just asking the opinion of the group.
Yeah, I just think we're gonna have to, same thing, monitor the CDC guidelines and where we're at, because the other thing is be putting other people at risk if we're gonna have a huge gathering and during a time when there is a peak or we're still having a lot of cases. But there again, that's just gonna be a call we have to make as we get closer to that time frame to see what, I hope we can have it. But I wanna be realistic that there's always still the possibility it may not happen. I hope it does, but I think think realistically, it's 50-50.
So are we saying to do the virtual on the 17th and schedule a celebration, or are we just scheduling the celebration, not doing the virtual?
I think we need to do the virtual also.
Yeah.
That way we can ensure that everyone has that opportunity.
And at the very least, hoping that we can have the one in either July or August. The other plus would be is it'll be recorded, so it'll be available every year. I mean, it'll be available for them to have whenever. And our thought would be is we would get it done and we would broadcast it at our 2 o'clock time frame on the 17th. I know Mr. Hussinger is putting together the senior one with the pictures. We could start that at 1 o'clock, start running that, and then at a regular 2 o'clock time, run the other one. But again, that's just my thought process, just some talks we've had here at the school.
I think those are great ideas, and I appreciate the time that everybody's putting into trying to figure something out that's good for the students, So.
And I think maybe the consensus of the board is the administration really has the pulse of what and how this should be done. It's at least my feeling.
I agree.
Well, what I'm hearing then is we're going to look at a virtual on the 17th, but we're also going to plan for a traditional ceremony on either the 26th of July or the 2nd of August. And we will send out a questionnaire to parents to ask them to vote on one of those. And once that comes in, we'll let everybody know what the percentage is, and we'll go with the date that works best.
Parents or students?
Yeah.
What if we do like 1 vote per family of the senior class?
Yeah, I think we
Their
just send
family
it
has
out
to
to
decide.
one and they gotta do it.
Okay.
Gotta come up. I mean, it can be, I'm fine with it being the kids making that call. I'm fine with the parents making it. understand they may have different ideas on which date, so they're gonna have to talk that out. Which would you prefer that we send it to, the parent or?
I think the kids, they lost enough this year. Let them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have Mr. Shaw put that together and we'll send it out to all the senior students.
Now, one other quick question. Availability of the high school gym, they won't be finishing or anything during that period of time?
Well, we're trying to get some of that going earlier, whether that happens or not, I don't know.
Okay. I mean,
That could be a possibility. Mitch, did we hear back from them or not?
Not yet, but the August week is our day that we get the company to come in and do it every year, and that's when they have us scheduled. We are trying to get earlier this year, if we can.
Can I just throw another thought out there?
Sure.
Can you say that, you're gonna do this poll of the senior students in hopes that we can do the traditional ceremony? But then if you can't do your virtual at that time versus doing a virtual in May and a ceremony in July, August, could you say, we're giving it our best efforts because we want to have the traditional ceremony, vote for the 26th of the August 2nd, and if not, then we'll do the virtual at that time?
Yeah, we can do about anything. My question, I guess, is how many senior parents wanted to have something on the 17th right now, is the only reason I said that.
We kind of want something official on the 17th. And the people I've talked to, that's just me and the people we've talked to. That way, I think if you said, let's shoot for July 26th or whatever, and if it doesn't work, we'll do virtual, it'll be so far past that aunts, uncles, cousins, no one's gonna make an effort to sit down and watch it at that point. I think that's just me, so open to other ideas and opinions.
I think they deserve to know that they're done and graduated on the 17th of May.
The 26th and 2nd, so I'm glad you brought that up, Tom, because we would have to know if our gym floor is being done. Of course, the 2nd, yeah, that'd be the only thing if that is an issue, if we can't get it sooner, which they book out a long ways in advance.
I've been familiar with that from another hat I used to wear.
Yeah. Well, we could put down both, and if we absolutely, and maybe the 26th is the one that gets picked anyway. I don't know. If it would be the 2nd, we could also look, and if we can't get it moved, then we could get the announcement out that that's not possible, and it had to be the 26th.
Yep.
Would that be okay for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we'll plan to do, and we'll get information out. Parents will first do the survey and have an email with that stating the one per family please fill out, and we'll go from there. I want to say congrats though to those students and directors and coaches that would have been attending the all-state band and also visual arts and also the state boys basketball tournament. I know it's disappointing that they've been canceled. But everyone involved should be proud of their accomplishments, and we're sure proud of the accomplishments for all of those individuals. So want to thank them for their dedication to those activities. The last thing I'll touch on is the National Teacher Appreciation Week is May 4th through the 8th. And this year more than ever, I guess I want to make sure that I recognize our teaching staff and thank them for all they're doing right now. So big thanks to our teaching staff. And hot off the press, May 15th, we got the gym floor lined up, it looks like.
Okay.
So, how's that? So we'll send out the 26th and the 2nd.
You needed a win.
We'll send that out for those 2 dates. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
All right. Anybody else on the administrative side? If not, then let's move on to item number 12, approve issuance of contracts for certified Title I teachers.
If you remember, this year we did the RIF like we do every year, but we just did the 2 part-time teachers. And those dollar amounts have come in, so we will be issuing half-time contracts, part-time contracts again to Lauren Chesky and Kim Seitz.
I think I should abstain from this vote, by the way.
Okay?
Okay, so we have a recommendation to hire those folks. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Mrs. Schultz, is there a second?
Second?
By Mrs. Kappeman. Further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in, go ahead, Mr. Brooks.
Okay, I marked Miller as abstain. And then we'll go Nelson,
Aye.
Hanamichael,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Kappeman,
Aye.
Bundy,
Aye.
Farrell.
Aye.
I think you might have to just do a little bit more of a pause in between that.
Okay, okay, sorry.
All right, number 13 is approval of administrative contracts for the 2021 contracts for administrators with the salary determined later. Reason for this is we have no idea what the legislature is going to do when they reconvene. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion for approval of those contracts.
So moved.
Mrs. Kappeman, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bundy. Further questions, discussion, comments by the administration?
This is something I actually meant to bring forward last month, and things started happening and they did get brought forward just to let our building principals and sped director and everybody know that we absolutely want to get them a contract.
Further questions or discussion? On Mr. Brooks with a roll call, please.
Nelson,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Hanamichael,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Kappeman,
Aye.
Bundy,
Aye.
Farrell.
Aye. Item number 14, Prairie Lakes contract amendment.
So what this is, with Prairie Lakes, Madison Central, we do their administrative services for them. And part of it is, the Perkins grant. And next year, the Prairie Lakes won't be having the Perkins grant. The schools are going direct with the state, and Madison is going direct, or is going by themselves. So this would be like removal of the Perkins portion. So we went through, we did the time it would take us to do the grant, and the time we do spend reimbursing it and cutting checks back and forth to the schools. So we went into years 4 and 5, which is next year and the year after, and reduced our fee to the cooperative for those services. So if you'll see the attachment, next year is taken from $33,000 down to $30,300 on that. So then, this is what we would then bring to Prairie Lakes as a proposal. That would be reducing our, reducing the services for Perkins, and then reducing our fee to them for that.
This recommendation would be for approval of that contract amendment. Do we have a motion? Second, we'll have discussion.
So moved.
Mr. Bundy has the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hanamichael. Further questions, discussions, or Lori, anything you want to add as our plat rep?
No, Mitch summed it up pretty well.
Further questions or discussions? Hearing none, all in favor, have Mr. Brooks let you know.
Okay. Nelson? Or Nelson? Aye. Miller?
Aye.
Hanamichael?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye.
Kapman?
Aye.
Bundy?
Aye.
Farrell.
Aye. Item number 15 is something that we have to do on an annual basis, and that is to authorize our membership into the South Dakota High School Activities Association. Take a motion second, we can have any discussion.
So moved.
Mr. Hanamichael, is there a second?
Second.
Oh, boy.
Boy, that was a tie. I'll give it up.
All right, we'll give it to Angie. Mrs. Kappeman has it. Questions, discussion, anything anybody wants to add? Mr. Brooks, you're on.
Nelson?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Hannah Michael,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Kappenman,
Aye.
Bundy,
Aye.
Farrell.
Aye. All right, on to item number 16, which is the election for a board of directors position. This is for the Southeast District and the largest membership group. We have 3 candidates. This needs to be done probably at this board meeting. First candidate is Terry Crandall with the Yankton School Board. Second candidate is Tara Johansson from the T Area District. And the third is Ellie Saxer. I would make a recommendation of Terry Crandall on that, so I would actually make a motion to that effect, that our vote go to Mr. Crandall. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, Mrs. Schultz.
Which district was he with, Don?
He's with the Yankton School District.
Okay.
He actually is a Dakota State grad, and I knew him as an undergrad student, and I've seen it at several of our ASBSD board things. I think he'd make a good board member for us. However, anyone else has somebody they'd like to carry forward, certainly we can amend the motion also. All right, hearing none, then Mr. Brooks.
Nelson,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Hannah Michael,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Kappenman,
Aye.
Bundy,
Aye.
Farrell.
Aye. Item number 17, Mr. Brooks, consider a new date for the school board election.
So with this, there's House Bill 1298 that postponed elections with the state of emergency. And with that, recommended kind of the June 2nd. We've contacted the county and the city of Madison. We wouldn't be necessarily combining an election, but we'd be working together. We'd share staff, resources, polling places, things like that. So I think for our voters, it'd be much nicer for them to come out on the same date as others. I mean, a lot of them be the same voters going to multiple elections. This way, if we have it on the same date, they just go to one place, cast their vote, we less risk involved. So I'd look to, if it's okay, if we could set it for the June 2nd, and then sharing resources with the county and the city. In relation to this, the governor or the Secretary of State's office just sent out a press release that they're going to send or mail an absentee ballot application to all registered voters in South Dakota, asking them then to fill them out and return them to their counties and try to do as many votes as we can by absentee ballot. So that would then hopefully decrease the numbers. We are working with the county and the city about how we'll set up the sites, how we'll space them, how we'll sanitize them, and to keep anybody that shows up to vote on that day as safe as possible. And also with our workers, how to spread them out and keep everything in the best practices that we can. But that was just kind of an update. So what we're looking for is setting the date. Locations are yet to be determined, as some sites aren't quite available to us. So we're still working on what, where, and how we can do some of that. But at this time, we'd be able to set the election date with the rest to be determined.
Okay, so the motion that we would entertain would be to set our school board election to be on June 2nd, 2020. Is that correct?
Yep, and to work with the county and the city.
Okay, to work with the county and the city, okay? Anyone wish to make that as a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Miller, is there a second?
Second.
We'll get that one to Mrs. Schultz. All right, further questions or discussion on that? So the motion we're voting on is to consider the new date then based on legislation that was passed on veto day to set our election to be June 2nd in conjunction with the city and county. Mr. Brooks?
Nelson,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Hannah Michael,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Kappeman,
Aye.
Bundy,
Aye.
Farrell.
Aye. All right, item number 19 is consider surplus of old payloader to auction.
Actually,
Please step
there's
back to 18, Tom.
one right
Oh, I'm sorry, summer food program.
And so what this is, right now, what we're offering out, for meals is part of the summer food program, but it's part of their emergency provision. The provision carries on till June 30th. But what we're needing to do is our summer food application for our normal summer months. As long as the provisions stay in place, we're allowed to do what we're doing, having multiple sites, children allowed to take meals off campus, and allowing like adults and parents to pick up meals for their kids. If those provisions end, we have to go back to being on just our elementary food consumed within the building. I don't know that that will happen, but I do have to fill out our application for the summer so we can approval on time. I do foresee the provisions staying in place, but I just want to make you aware of if there had to be a change, it would be the state directing us how we had to change it back. And that wouldn't be until end of June because they just extended the current provisions from April to the end of June. But I just want to make everybody kind of aware of how that program and application works.
Okay. Thanks again for the work on that, Mr. Brooks.
Yeah.
Now I'm on to number 19, consider surplus of the old payloader to auction.
So our old payloader, we bought it used back in 2013. It broke down. We took it out to Lake County. They gave us an estimate. The estimate was about $12,000 with more that probably needed to be done. So we took it up to around 18 to 20. So we purchased a smaller but very functional payloader at that time. So we'd be looking to surplus our old payloader. It is repairable, but it's broke down to take somebody that has a lot more knowledge at it. So we thought we'd take it out to an auction, sort of, just to throw an example, like a big iron or something, where if we put out for auction, the people bidding on it, we'd list what's wrong with it, they would know what it would take to fix and repair it. And we hope that would be getting a good price on that item.
So with that, we'll take a recommendation from the administration to surplus the old payloader out to an auction. Is there a motion to that effect? Mr. Nelson, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hanemichael. Further questions or discussion? So the motion that Mr. Brooks will be covering is the surplus of the old payloader out to auction. Go ahead, Mr. Brooks.
Nelson,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Hanemichael,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Kappeman,
Aye.
Bundy,
Aye.
Farrell.
Aye. Then we move on to number 20, which is an executive session in accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2, section number 1, for personnel matters. We'll need a motion, we'll need a second, and then Mr. Forrester will cut off the Zoom broadcast.
So moved.
That was Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
Second.
That was Mr. Bundy. And I will declare us into executive session at 6:19. Let us know when we're okay to go, Mr. Brooks.
Okay, and just for a statement, then we'll go into executive session, we'll turn off our webcasting. There'll be no action taken after the executive session, so this will be the end of the webcasting portion. We'll just adjourn after the executive session. Ready?
Very good.
Okay.
We'll give a minute here for me to go visit with Steve then, and then we'll get started.